Wow, am I actually doing a semi-serious video? What's going on? So, there's been a bit of a scare recently in the AO3 fanfiction in general space online involving AI, and it's connected to a larger problem within the creative community as a whole in regards to artificial intelligence. If you haven't already seen it, there's been major pushback against AI art, and now a discovery with AI writing software has many fanfiction writers and readers feeling apprehensive about the future of creative writing in fandom. Here's the sitch. To preface, there are many AI writing assistants, generators, programs out there, programs that are supposed to serve as tools in helping writers figure out what to write next in their works. But the one that really got this conversation going in terms of fanfic is called pseudo-write. Not pseudo as in pseudoscience, just S-U-D-O, although the implications there are not lost. Pseudo-write, as well as other AI writing assistants out there, use something called GPT-3, Generative Pre-trained Transformer, 3rd generation, a widely used language model that uses deep learning, a complex structure of algorithms modeled on the human brain, to produce human-like text. Given an initial text prompt, it'll continue with that train of thought the prompt gave it using statistical and probabilistic techniques to determine the likelihood of a given sequence of words occurring next in a sentence. You throw something into a prompt and it'll spit out what it thinks should happen next based on what it learned about writing through science. The entire goal, given a passage of text, is to output the next paragraph or so, such that we would perceive the entire passage as a cohesive whole written by one author. It's just pattern recognition, but I think it does go beyond the concept of autocomplete. GPT-3 was released in 2020 and was created by OpenAI, a company that Elon Musk co-founded. However, he is no longer involved with it. He resigned from the board in 2018, but has since remained a donor. I only mention him because even though he is certainly a man that exists, he doesn't really play a role in the current situation at hand. A lot of people believed he was directly responsible for and behind this predicament we're getting into, but alas, he's not. Rest assured, there's still plenty of other stuff he could yell at him for. Now, artificial intelligence doesn't just exist on its own. AI needs to be trained in order to understand what it's being used to do. GPT-3 is trained on datasets like Wikipedia and the Web Archive Common Crawl, which basically web scrapes the entire internet. Web scraping, or web harvesting, is when data is extracted from websites. I remember for a couple of my programming courses in college, I had to do some web scraping for some projects, and it really was not difficult or complicated at all. In a really metaphor, imagine the internet is one of those bee boxes, right? Full of the frames with the hives in them, and the bees are going in and making their honey. The hive frames in this case are websites, the bees are users, and the honey is the data they produce. Web scraping is like when someone goes in and collects the honey off of those frames. See, now I'm just picturing more of a bee movie scenario here. Look, again, just don't take this metaphor too seriously. I'm just trying to make it more easily understandable. Well, anyway, when I say that GPT-3 is trained using datasets made by scraping the entire internet, guess what's on the internet? Fanfiction, specifically AO3, a whole library of publicly available, widely accessible text. So, in the process of learning how to write, AI may have consumed a metric ton of fan-made literature. How do we know? This post detailing the user and their friend's experience with pseudo-write blew up on Reddit, in which they gave it various prompts that only people aware of certain fanficisms would know. And, well, the results may shock you. Here's an example where the prompt involved the words Steve, Alpha, and Omega, and the result was a stony, stucky Omegaverse snippet in which the AI actually understood Omegaverse dynamics. Further prompting with BTS apparently led to very explicit results despite the initial text prompt being relatively tame. Certain fandoms were immediately looped together, such as Hannibal, Sherlock, and Harry Potter, due to the fic writers of those fandoms' writing styles apparently sharing patterns with one another, which the AI picked up on. When this hit Twitter and Tumblr, which are already hubs of fanfic discussion, it opened up several other accounts of people noticing the same thing when they were playing with AI writing assistants. Some users actually reported feeding the AI prompts from their own fanfic and then having bits and pieces of their fic, which they posted on AO3 years ago, being spat back out at them. It's very likely not just AO3 either. Wattpad, fanfiction.net, and other sites where fanfiction is hosted are very likely included in this whole debacle. People were playing with different AI services, seeing what they knew about certain fandoms, what they could write using the knowledge they acquired of them, and if any of it was coherent. And while a lot of it was noticeably garbled and clumsily patched together, there were numerous instances of the AI actually being able to maintain continuity in later paragraphs and remember what was going on. The current limitations were clear, but the looming future of what it could be given more and more training were also evident. Now, AO3 has been made aware of all of this. As fandom people, we are really fortunate to have a legal team and fund behind the organization of transformative works, which AO3 is under, as well as other resources they provide to help protect fic writers. According to one of the founders of Pseudo-Write, the program was not targeting AO3 specifically and merely uses GPT-3, which, again, was trained using basically everything available on the internet. So, pro, AO3 wasn't being directly targeted, at least not yet, but con, it still likely got put in the dataset without consent. So the gist of it is, GPT-3 scraped fanfics on AO3 as well as lots and lots of other things, and then sold its access to AI writing assistants and software that now monetize it, which in regards to AI generators is par for the course. Web scraping to train AI is a very common occurrence, and chances are if you post something publicly online, at some point it will be fed to an AI to be rebranded and resold. Permission and consent be damned. Is this legal? It's complicated. OpenAI does make money through paying for access to GPT-3, including from AI writing assistants that are paid subscription services. So, at the end of the day, there is a profit being made off of fan content that was initially made for free. And something to note is that Common Crawl does not differentiate between copyrighted and non-copyrighted material. And if you know fanfic, you already know it's in this weird gray area that's constantly towing the line of staying within copyright law. So a program making money off of something trained using content involving copyrighted material, it just boils down to, unfortunately, the law has not caught up with technology yet. It's still something that tech and the law are trying to hash out. This is a very new field with developing legal precedent, and the social and ethical concerns of AI trained on human labors to reproduce similar things for cheaper are not going to go away anytime soon. If fanfic is involved in future legal cases and ends up setting a precedent somehow, that would be certainly interesting. Okay, so is it legal? Is it ethical? The biggest worry and gripe here is that obviously GPT-3 is scraping works from AO3, a non-profit organization made by fans for fans, for creating fan works about media they enjoy for fun and for free without user consent for monetized AI writing assistants. And even if it wasn't directly targeting fanfic, AO3 is still being scraped indirectly. Companies are buying these data sets, which include all this fanfic data collected online, smashing it up, feeding it to their baby AI, which then redistributes it out for a cash grab. And as many artists have unfortunately seen, you can't get your works out of these data sets once they've been devoured and consumed. The other day, when I decided to run a test of my own in Pseudo-Writes and popped in words for a small rare pair in my niche fandom, some of the language I got was very clearly from fanfiction, though not specifically AO3, including language common to authors' notes about feedback, appreciating or donating if someone liked their work. So it's scraping the whole internet, including fanfiction. Honestly, it's wrong and dehumanizing when I think about how much work we put into writing. This is so frustrating. I've been writing fanfiction since the days where you could either include a disclaimer in your fic or face the possibility of a crack team of lawyers coming for your ass. Even AO3 accounts can't be used to link back to social media where a donation link is present. Writers still have to bend over backwards to prove that, heaven forbid, they're not making a couple bucks off of their work whose IP is owned by a billion-dollar company whose CEO farts out more money in a week than most of us will make in our lifetimes. We just don't have to bend as far as we used to. Oh, but AI bots can use that same writing for profit. Fanfiction is a communal activity. Its creation is an act of love. So is sharing it. AI coming to rip our words away from us sours the experience and replaces the love and community with corporate greed. AIs cater to audiences that always want more and won't wait, who don't care about quality as long as they're being given things 24/7 without break. What we love is taken and given back, but only on the tech bros' own terms, because in their eyes, only they know what's valuable. They take away the interaction, the community, the love of creation, and give back a fleeting moment of immediate gratification. Fandom, at its core is about engaging in a community through a shared love of something. But if AI is doing everything for us by spitting out fics and fan art, there is no satisfaction to be had in that for fans who want to create and see others create. Get to the center of why they like this character or this story so much and connect with it. Who want to explore the what-ifs of alternate universes, get into characters' heads and navigate their development in a way that only a fan could foresee, which cannot be replicated in AI. Like, can you imagine an AI trying to come up with headcanons or fully grasp the nuances of fanon and then making something out of it? Not very likely, or in any way that's compelling. You're not gonna alleviate your brain rot by typing in a half-baked prompt into a generator, getting a soulless wall of text that doesn't even fully align with your vision of the characters and story, and then rinsing and repeating to write your fic. And it's not gonna do anything for the brain rot of fic readers either. Hence why, even though I know this all sounds really scary, I'm not gonna panic, and I want to reassure you that no AI could ever replace the incredible people that create for fandom. Because the core of what fandom is, what it represents, is the antithesis of AI generation. AI is going to leech off of fandom as much as it can, but it cannot replace it. And for the thankfully small handful of people putting AI-generated fics on AO3, archive of our own, you do realize how nonsensical and honestly embarrassing that is, right? And like, if you're doing it just for kicks to see if people can tell if it's AI generated or not, just don't. We don't need junk fics clogging up searches. This has been happening for a couple years, mind you. Again, thankfully, just a small amount on AO3, but with all this talk of AI generators, it has been stirring the pot a little. Speaking of writing on AO3, many fanfic authors on the site have actually locked their works from the public eye and only allow access to registered AO3 users in order to prevent AI bots and future web scrapes from finding their work and then putting it in datasets. But unfortunately, as we've established, archive locking your existing works will not remove them from datasets they're already in. It may keep them out of future datasets, and you can still do it with all your newer works, but knowing AI trawling, it's not a guarantee. Something you should not do, and what is a bafflingly bad suggestion, is let's spam AO3 with garbage and crack so that when the AI eats the data, the output will be useless. Oh dear. One, that'll hurt the fanfic reading community more than actually solving anything. A computer doesn't care if AO3 is spammed with garbage, but the users sure will. We don't know when or if the data would be next collected, and making AO3 uninhabitable until that point, not the way to go. Two, you'll likely get suspended almost immediately for breaking the archive's rules, because again, trashing AO3 for an unforeseeable AI baby feeding session is not the move. Going back to the topic of locking fanfiction on AO3 to AO3 registered users only, basically making it private from public searching, it brings up the question of if it's even worth it in the end, as many authors have expressed that it makes things less accessible for the greater reader audience out there, and it goes against the whole point of sharing fic in the first place. I am not going to archive lock my fics at this time because probably 98% of my reading consumption was as a guest. And I think if algorithms get our stories, humans without accounts should too. I am also not confident it would change anything at this point. I respect anyone's decision to archive lock their stories and understand the desire to do so. I mean, data miners, but also if the data is already mined, it's done. I already released my fanfic into the world. I'm not going to take it down or make it private. But still, those bastards. Send your fave fanfic writers some love. Ultimately, it's up to the author for what they want to do and what they're comfortable with, and as the readers, we gotta respect that. If I can dig in and find a kernel of comedy in this, it's that these AI writing programs' brains are being filled with stuff like Orbs, Bluenet, Omegaverse, BTS, Stucky, and Sherlock and Hannibal porn. In the GPT-3 and OpenAI terms of service, they actually tell you not to use it to write pornographic material, but presumably, pretty much every AI writing assistant out there has been trained with AO3 in the dataset, home of quite possibly one of the wildest homebrewed erotica libraries online. And with just a hair of prompting, these AI generators will whip out every euphemism for any chance it gets. Maybe that's a viable way to combat it. Just keep writing the filthiest, best possible smut you can, keep slapping as much of it as you can on AO3, to the point where these generators will not be able to write anything without the slightest whiff of debauchery in it. This whole discussion of written works and visual art being used to train these AI programs without the consent of their creators is a really important conversation to be having, especially when there's monetization involved and as AI gets more and more prominent in creative areas. What are your thoughts on this? On pretty much anything I talked about, really. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching. I hope I didn't scare you too much. I just want you to be aware of what's happening. Again, don't panic. Fanfic and fandom are not going anywhere. It's just important to be mindful of what's going on and stay on top of things. And I don't know if you've seen, but people who try to pass off AI work as their own almost immediately get sent to the shadow realm. It's like an instant way for everyone to lose their respect for you. And if you're passionate, just create. Don't think about all the what ifs. Just pour your joy into your work. Thanks again for watching, guys. Stay safe out there, and I promise my next video will not be as heavy as this. All right, see you next time. Bye!